Hey, you wild thing. Let me tell you about this morning and the irony in the podcast episode I'm recording right now, all about how triggers reveal your growth opportunities because I am so delayed in my day. Thankfully, there's a little bit of grace, but there was just different things that were happening from my youngest waking up and feeling sick, and we're homeschooling while we're on the road in Austin, Texas. And then my site was down and people were trying to buy tickets to the Pink Skirt Project. And these things would normally trigger me. Like if you look back at the Renee from 2 years ago, even I would have been triggered. I would have been the person panicking, calling everybody right away without just stopping and taking a breath and really understanding the situation. So pat on my back for being the person that has come this far. And I want to teach you a couple lessons today that will help you better understand yourself, but also the triggers in your life. The reason that I wanted to record this episode and why this came up is because I noticed myself getting better at dealing with situations, faced with triggers like the gate to the community wouldn't open, so I couldn't leave and drive my kids to school, or my site was down, or I had to make a really tough phone call. And I'll talk about that story later on, to a vendor. And it was just interesting that I have come this far, and I really wanted to share the story of success, but also how I do it now when I'm faced with triggers, because the reality is the trigger has nothing to do with the other person or the situation and everything to do with what's going on in our head. And these triggers we face as mothers, as leaders, as entrepreneurs. And the better you can get at understanding your triggers and, quote, dealing with them, the better you can actually coast through your days, despite how difficult it might get. So we're talking about triggers. We're talking about how we can get through this. But I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered why certain behaviors in others drive you absolutely crazy? Well, some don't even seem to be bothered by it. For me, it's like when my husband chooses food, it drives me crazy. It has nothing to do with him. And there's probably other people that it's not bothering, but it's a trigger for me. Or maybe, have you ever felt that flash of irritation when someone criticizes your work? Like you get in defensive mode? Or maybe that knot in your stomach when a client questions your expertise. I've been on all those sales calls before. I've been on those client meetings that they just had to have for the sake of telling us how terrible of humans we were because we didn't get the media wins that they expected. What if I told you that those moments of discomfort are actually your greatest teachers? This is probably not new information for you. I cannot tell you I can tell you with a shadow of a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, is that I will say, listen, I am deprived of coffee here because I've been trying to wean myself off of coffee. And I'm not triggered by this, but I'm noticing a little bit a different cognitive function. But the best lesson I've learned in business, in life, in parenting, in my marriage, anything that I do, just in the day to day, have come from those failures, have come from those moments when kind of faced deer in a headlight. I don't know what to do. And then you start to panic. And panicking, like worrying, it gets you absolutely nowhere. What often irritates us in others is a reflection of what we need to address within ourselves. And that's what we're going to chat about today, and why your triggers are often stopping you from achieving your dreams. Even scrolling through social media, this is where I really caught it, was the moments when I felt so triggered by someone's political stance or perspective on something I didn't agree with. I used to be the person to comment or thumbs down wherever the opportunity came. And then I realized that they're not right or wrong, and I'm not right or wrong. It's just a perspective. We have different beliefs. We have different values. It does not make the other person right or wrong. And I want you to know that and remember that. In the world of parenting, in the world of business, in the world of just trying to achieve a different level of success or getting out of a funk or getting out of a rut, we are going to be faced with triggers. And the more that we could just see them, face them, get through them, the better our lives can be. Do you know the difference between a monk and a person who is unhoused or a person who is in a crisis? The difference is that a monk who is trained to let thoughts in and let thoughts go, can just let them go in and out of their heads. So an idea might come in, a trigger of something that causes them to react really defensively. Then they let it go. People who ruminate, they hold on to these stories, they hold on to these convictions or things that they think are the truth, are the ones that end up suffering. So if you find yourself in these positions where you are triggered all the time, you're very easily triggered, you're considered a sensitive person, and other people can see it. And I don't want to throw shame on you if this is you. I do not want to throw judgment on anybody else who experiences this, because I still do. It's just data. It's basically your mind saying, wow, there's something here you need to put your finger on and you need to do the work. Because imagine a day where that trigger, which could be as simple as your husband chewing with his mouth open and that noise annoys you, doesn't bug you anymore. Imagine the day where all of these things that used to just cause you anxiety and headache and increases your stress, imagine that didn't exist. And that's kind of the point. You need to become the person who can deal with these situations and not let it affect you. So, understanding a trigger. What exactly is a trigger? It is a strong reaction that seems disproportionate in the situation. So you spilt milk. And I will say this, my dad is the worst at these things. And I noticed this, so I'm hoping I don't get it from him. But like, you spilt milk as an example, and he might be like just swearing and cussing. And then all of a sudden this energy affects him and affects everybody around him. Imagine the day where he spilled and he goes, oh, well, and cleans it up and moves about his day. Or imagine the day you come home from work and your teenage son forgot to bring in the garbage as part of their chores. And instead of walking in the house saying, Max, you forgot to bring in the garbage, turn off that TV, you're whatever, lose 10 minutes of your iPad time. Maybe it's hey, Max, I don't know if you noticed, you forgot to bring in the garbage. Are you able to get that now? Not being triggered by it. Because there's really nothing in this world that we need to be so triggered by. Most of us blow things way out of proportion. At the end of the day, most things on a day-to-day basis end up being okay. So that's what a trigger is. And it's often connected to unhealed wounds or unacknowledged traits. And I'm talking about triggers too being points of jealousy, where you might look at another woman and really like her hair or her skin or her abs or her bank account or the car she drives, or the person she married. Or you might look at your neighbor and see that they always have, friends over or family over, and you're jealous of the connection they have with their community. These are triggers because it's basically saying, I want that too. And instead of being like, how can I achieve that? We just go in this pity party and then we just start hating them. Like, do you know of somebody that you quote dislike simply because they have something that you don't? And they're actually just a really great human being, but you dislike them because you have jealousy or envy, or there's something about their life or the way they talk or how great their social media is performing that makes you triggered. Because actually, I did this exercise not that long ago with a friend of mine. I think it was with my spiritual therapist. Yeah, Stephanie. And she's like, who are some people in your life that trigger you? And so I made this like really short list, and there was, I think, 4 names on it. And there was just women that were friends from the past or newer friends. And I said, I'm triggered by these people and I don't know why. So she started asking all these questions. So I want you to do this exercise too, actually. Write down a list of names of people, no more than 3, of people that just trigger you. And you don't like them, even though they've done nothing wrong. And even though you know inherently they're great people. Write their names down. Do it right now. Or if you're driving, think about these people. Now, really try to understand, what is it about them or a situation or maybe something they said or did that forced you to feel this way? Are they actually worth hating? Are they actually worth ignoring, blocking, or talking crap about them behind their backs? No. I bet you no. Unless these people are completely malicious, let's take these anomalies off the table. Now I want you to go back and understand, is it because they're more successful than you? Is it because they went from 700 Instagram followers to 30,000 over the course of a couple years and you're jealous of their success, that they figured something out? Is it because you feel like they owe you something? That is so common. I see that a lot, where people feel this huge sense of resentment, like people owe them something. And so then they dislike them, they discredit them, and they start talking crap behind their backs. Don't do that. These are unhealed wounds. These are unacknowledged traits. These are parts of yourself that you want. And what hurts the most is you know that you're not doing the thing or the work to solve this problem. You want to grow to 30,000 followers on Instagram because that's some arbitrary number that you thought would be a successful number for you. You're not doing anything to get there. You just think it's just going to be delivered to you. So then when you see somebody putting in the work and actually getting that engagement and getting that traction, you become jealous. Jealousy, as my father says, is the ugliest emotion. And it really is. Because basically when you talk crap about someone behind their back, or you're openly jealous about somebody, an emotionally intelligent person knows that it has nothing to do with that person and everything to do with you. So it's very embarrassing. Now, you can be envious of a person, because envy is a sense that where you're actually putting in the work and maybe you're not succeeding. So you're wondering what you're doing wrong. But jealousy is really just my perspective is just that you're not even trying, and you feel good about yourself by bashing this person or talking crap about them behind their back, or even talking crap about yourself behind your back. I can't do this. I'm a failure. I can't lose that 10 pounds. I can't get my business to 10K months. I suck. Think about those conversations that you have in your head. So coming back to triggers, here are some triggers and what they reveal. So there's common ones. There's the irritation. These are just examples. The irritation of someone's lateness. So our anxiety, really what it means is our anxiety about time and control. So this is my husband. He always says, Renee, you're always 10 minutes late. And I was like, you know what? I am. I know this. And part of me is because I'm a procrastinator. And I'm going to talk about this in another episode, but really quickly, there's a reason why people procrastinate. And why they procrastinate is because they're unsure of the outcome. So there are many things that I'm not late for. Many things. But there are also some things that I'm frequently late for because I'm really just not convicted of the outcome. This could be like going out for dinner with friends and I don't really know these people and there's going to be a lot of people there and I'm in my antisocial era of my life. So to show up already exhausted because I'm going through perimenopause, but to show up already exhausted and have to perform socially is a lot for me. So I look at it as though I'm going for a mental workout. I'm not ready for this. So the things where I'm unsure of the outcome, I'll procrastinate. Sometimes the anger is perceived, or sometimes people get really angry at, quote, laziness. But that's really our guilt about our own rest and boundaries. Sometimes, I remember growing up, my dad used to call me a lollygagger. I was just someone who just would coast through the day and get things done. I'm getting better at those now. But people would just get angry at me because they just thought I didn't have boundaries or great time management. Then there could be triggers like the frustration with someone's neediness. This is really about our discomfort with vulnerability. Someone might be perceived to be needy, and whether or not that's true, it's not beside the point, is now you're uncomfortable with their vulnerability, and that's a trigger for you. So instead of being, and also this happens with men, I'm noticing too, is when a woman might show up and say, hey, I'm really overwhelmed by all this the school activities and the practices and soccer and this and homeschooling. And I just want you to know that men all of a sudden think now it's their responsibility to solve the problem. So they actually take it as a personal attack. They'll say, well, I work all day to make the money. So I don't understand why you can't manage this. And that's not the point. Most of us show up in these situations because we actually just want to be heard and seen. So some people get triggered because they are uncomfortable with dealing with the vulnerability of somebody else. And that's a whole other podcast. So your triggers aren't your enemies. They're messengers pointing to exactly where you need to grow. And let me tell you, having kids is like the best education on triggers. So the next thing are the 3 types of reflection. So when you find yourself in these moments of being triggered, reflect. So think of these actual moments. I remember a time, has happened too often, where we were racing to the bus stop and I was always like yelling at the kids last minute, get in the car, we got to leave now or else Max missed the bus. And that energy they would absorb. So now all of a sudden the 3 of us are just blowing up, pissed off, yelling at each other. And I remember getting into the car when I was honking the horn. I looked in the mirror and I said, Renee, you need to learn to become the person who can deal with this, because those poor kids, they need guidance. They need help. They're not mature enough to just always be ready on time. They're waiting for me to be ready. And so it ended up coming back on me and it had nothing to do with them. So I had to do the work. So the 3 types of reflection in this work, when I was literally looking in the rearview mirror, talking to myself, was this. When we're bothered by traits, we deny ourselves. When we're bothered by our traits, we deny ourselves. That for me was that morning was the biggest reminder that I need to be better at time management. I need to be better at showing up on time. And that meant for those days where I had to bring Max to the bus stop, I had to show up 5 minutes earlier to be on time. So another example could be like being annoyed by someone's arrogance when we struggle with ego, with ego. So if we lack confidence, or we struggle with our ego. When somebody seems arrogant, we struggle with that. We can't deal with it. Some people can just let those energies and emotions pass, but some of us can't do that. So that's the direct mirror. So what are you denying in yourself when you're triggered by something? So a perfect example could be if you wanted to lose that extra 10 pounds. And it's like, you kind of know what you need to do and it's not going to be as quick as you wanted. And let's just assume that like your hormones and everything are balanced. Everything is fine. You still can't do it because you know that you end up eating crap after 8 p.m. Or you don't give yourself bigger eating windows or smaller eating windows. You know it down intuitively. You know it. You're denying yourself the fact that you're doing these things wrong. So it's like, got to hold up the mirror. Dude, are you actually doing the things you need to do to lose 10 pounds? Or are you actually doing the things you need to do to grow your business or to sell the tickets to your event? Like, what are you denying yourself? The next one is the wounded warrior. When we're triggered by behaviors that remind us of past hurts. The wounded warrior, it's like you become very hesitant. And my example would be in going into business with somebody, in getting a business partner, or even like a co-host for my event. Because of what happened historically with a previous business partner, I just assumed that would happen again. So I was like, this already happened to me once or twice, it's going to happen again. Maybe it could if you didn't change anything. But also you're denying yourself the opportunity to work with somebody and do something really cool together because of past trauma. This could even be in relationship, or maybe you've been in an abusive relationship and you got out of it and now you're thriving, but you really, most of your body's out the door, one little toe in another relationship, because you're like, well, I was hurt in the past, so this guy's going to hurt me again. In relationships, we tend to go for the same type of person, because there's something in us that's wounded and we haven't healed, the wounded warrior. So when you go in and you heal that part of you, you'll start attracting a different type of partner. And then you can start trusting. Because in these moments, we often think everybody's malicious, and that's just not true. And the last one, the last form of reflection is the aspirational mirror. When we're bothered by qualities we secretly admire but we don't express. So an example could be feeling judgmental about someone's confidence when we wish we could be more assertive. Do you know those people? They're just like, oh my God, they exude confidence. And so then we're like, well, they're just cocky, arrogant, egotistical people. Or no, they're just confident because they know who they are. They've done the work. They've healed it. So when you're faced with these things, there's a couple of things you need to do. I call this the RISE method, RISE. It's a 4-step framework. One is recognize. When you catch yourself in a trigger moment, notice any sort of physical or emotional traits that are happening. Sweating, heart racing, tightness, like the tightness in your chest. Catch yourself in that moment. And then pause before responding, pause before making assumptions. And then name that emotion or name that incident without judgment. Like, what is it? Maybe it's Lucy. I don't know, random. So an example could be that, I don't know, you're triggered by somebody's confidence. They go on stage. Like, imagine somebody who's been like neck to neck with you in business. They started at the same time in the same-ish industry, your buddies, your friends, but all of a sudden they're doing better. They're like getting fit. Their business is operating way better than yours. They're growing. And you're like, why aren't I achieving this? And maybe they just landed an award. Maybe they just got recognized for something. And you're like, ugh, recognize where that's coming from. Name that emotion. Because if that person can do it, so can you. And there's space and opportunity available for everybody. It's not just for them. So just know that those triggers about somebody else have nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. The next one is investigate. Question your feelings in that moment. Are they valid? Is it really valid that you're super jealous about somebody who got nominated for an award, not even won the award? Why? Is it because you wish you were nominated, but somebody hasn't nominated you? Well, guess what? They're putting themselves out there. You're not. So the trigger, again, is from something that is bothering you, has nothing to do with them. You can ask yourself, what unmet need of mine is the trigger exposing? Identify the core value or belief that feels threatened in these moments. And then you really have to separate facts from interpretation, because your brain's going to go through all these stories and ruminate and be like, here's the truth, or maybe this and all this stuff. And then maybe there's just the facts. The facts are this person tried harder. The facts are this person was more integrated in this community and therefore somebody nominated them because more people know of them. It's not because they're better than you. And like these nomination contests, it's a popularity contest. So if they happen to be more plugged in and have a bigger community, well then there you go. So the S is spot the patterns. Find patterns across different triggers. Identify the core lesson trying to emerge. Think of anything that's triggering you now. Actually, I would love for you to direct message me on Instagram, Renee_Warren. Let me know maybe one of your triggers. And maybe you and I can go deep on trying to figure out why that happens. I love having those conversations. So you have to recognize when the same trigger appears in different contexts and ask yourself, what wisdom is this pattern trying to reveal to me? What wisdom is this pattern that keeps showing up with my triggers across different contexts and different situations? What is it trying to reveal to me? And finally, the E in RISE is evolve. Choose one specific quality or skill to develop based on your insights. Create a concrete action plan that you can measure. And then maybe get people to help you be accountable. Like for me, I want to be 10 minutes earlier for everything. 10 minutes early, it's not that hard. So if I tell people this, if I share this with like my husband, Dan, then he knows. He doesn't have to do anything. He just knows that I am really trying to be more punctual. So the next time you feel triggered, ask yourself, what old story or belief is being activated by this situation? Or what core value of mine feels threatened at this moment? When you start working on your triggers, it improves, especially your awareness around these triggers, because sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. And then when we do know, we're like, why? And we have to do the work. So take the triggers that are affecting you the most and then understand that as you improve them, your team leadership improves, your client relationships improve, your marketing showing up on social improves, your resilience to certain situations improve. I'm telling you, the entrepreneurs who grow fastest aren't the ones who never got triggered. They're the ones who use their triggers as growth accelerators. So before you go, I challenge you to identify one trigger that keeps showing up in your business or your life, and then apply that RISE method, right? So the RISE is recognize, investigate, spot the patterns, and then evolve. And this is a constant process. You don't just do it once. It's like you'll have triggers because as you get to that next level, there'll be new triggers. So this is just an evolution, but the biggest thing is the awareness. I would love to help you out, and I would love to know if there's any triggers in business that are really affecting you. Hit me up on Instagram, Renee_Warren. And if you haven't had the chance to buy a ticket to the Pink Skirt Project, to immerse yourself in a room full of women who understand their triggers and they have awareness around them and they just want to get to that next level, go to thepinkskirtproject.com and grab your tickets today because we are selling out. We are over a month out. And let me tell you, we are getting more and more ticket sales every day. We are going to sell out. I hope to see you there.